decades later, his grave was removed and his stone, and they were sent up to Forest Hill Cemetery, the big cemetery on Geddes and Observatory Streets that is adjacent to the Arboretum. This is an interesting stone just because of its carving. It's beautifully done. It's a very handsome looking stone. Don't know anything about the man, Johann Gottlieb Schwabe, or Schwab. There were other Schwabs in town who didn't have the final E on their name. And the name Schwab comes from the area where the Germans in this part of Michigan migrated. They left the Schwaben district, or the Swabia area, Württemberg, and came in large numbers to Washtenaw County, beginning really in the 1820s, but more steadily in the 1830s and afterward. And they settled on the farms in Scioto, Lodi, Freedom townships, and later moved to other townships as well, including Northfield. And after being farmers, the next generation, some of the members at least, moved into town. They came to Ann Arobr and set up there as shopkeepers and hotel owners and so forth. And the Schwabens, the Schwabians, have had a big impact on the history of Ann Arobr as well as the rural part of the county. Daniel Almendinger here was one of the 4 original German settlers of Washtenaw County. Came out here in the fall of 1825 to purchase land in Lodi Township for a farm. He came from Pennsylvania, and his method of arriving here was tedious, to say the least. He walked all the way from Pennsylvania through Lower Canada, or Upper Canada, I guess they called it, but the part that we think is lower on the map. And apparently had some harrowing adventures on the way, and at one point he was knee-deep. Excuse me. At one point on his travels, Daniel Almendinger was knee-deep in water owing to a flooded condition in Canada, and it saved his life because as he was wading through there, he noticed at the edges of the water there were about 100 wolves that had been following him and were hoping to eat him, but they wouldn't come into the water for some reason. Dogs nowadays don't seem to mind water, but those wolves did. And so Daniel Almendinger was spared, and he made it all the way to Ann Arobr and bought land here at the standard rate of $1.25 an acre in those days from the government in Lodi Township. He didn't settle there immediately, but went back to Pennsylvania, I assume walking all the way again, and brought his family here a few years later. I think in 1829, if I'm not mistaken. I suppose the name Shaberly, as people in Ann Arobr pronounced it in the 20th century and still in the 21st, originally was Scheiberly. That would be the German pronunciation. Johann, or John Martin Scheiberly here, Shaberly, was an astronomer and scientist, as it says on the plaque on his stone. And he was a native of Ann Arobr who attended the University of Michigan and became one of the astronomers there and racked up quite a record. I believe he discovered a comet or two, but I'd have to check the books on that just to make certain. But he certainly distinguished himself in his field far above his compatriots. They were the standard definition of a man outstanding in his field, a farmer. Bad joke. But Shaberly was an intellectual and one of the very first of the German settlers in this area to attend the university. Here's David Frederick Almendinger, who was the son of Daniel Almendinger, one of the original German settlers in this area and one of the founders of the Bethlehem congregation. which used to have a church on this site. And David Allmendinger was quite well known in his day. He died in 1916. According to the stone here, he was born in 1848, the year of the unsuccessful German Revolution that sent so many people to this, to the United States, and a lot of them to Michigan, immigrating after the lack of success in their attempt. But David Allmendinger distinguished himself as a manufacturer of reed organs, starting with church organs, but later going to parlor organs, which were a popular form of entertainment in America in the late 19th century. And when they lost